Hello, folks. Welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it, and I hope wherever you are, you're staying inside and staying as safe as possible. And if you are an essential worker, thank you for what you're doing. It means a lot, even if you don't feel it from people that you probably should have. Today is actually a good day for me. Maybe my greatest day as a lead-in to who we will be talking to later in the show. The sun is shining, and I'm recording this a day before I turn before my birthday, which is April 23rd. So I'm feeling optimistic despite the current state of the world. My fiance is very sympathetic. She thinks I'm not going to have the best birthday, but not only do I have the greatest birthday ever every year that I'm with her, but what happened today leading up to my birthday is really awesome, because my guest on the show today is Jaret Reddick. Jaret is the lead singer of the punk rock band Bowling for Soup. You might know them from their hit songs 1985, Girl All the Bad Guys Want, Almost. They also did the theme song for Phineas and Ferb. They are a very fun band that I have enjoyed for a very long time, and I've seen them live, and it is a entertaining, great night out at the show, which is the kind of thing that I look forward to being able to do again as soon as the world gets to a healthier, safer place in the midst of the coronavirus. So, but I'm talking to because man, I remember first hearing "Girl, All the Bad Guys Want." I think seeing the music video for it on like Much Music or Fuse, or maybe MTV too, like in the early 2000s, and really enjoying it. And Jaret also he co-wrote the song. We get into it. The actual construction of the song 1985, which was originally a song by the band SR-71, who are another one of my all-time favorite bands. So we talk a little bit about that. The other thing that I asked Jaret about right away is, I don't know if anyone listening to this remembers the Ozzfest anniversary DVD that I think came out around 2005 or so. But Bowling for Soup played 1985 on that DVD. And for years, I have wondered, how does Bowling for Soup fare playing a heavy metal festival like Ozzfest? So I was really excited to ask him that. And I'm excited to share this interview with you and any other Bowling for Soup fans who might be listening to this for the first time. If this is your first time listening to the show, thank you. If you enjoy this and feel like you want to listen to more or know someone else who might enjoy this as well, the best way that podcasts grow is by other people telling them, hey, this is cool. So if you know someone that you would think this is cool, let them know. We're available on Apple, Stitcher, and Spotify, all the other podcast apps that you use, including the one you're thinking of right now. And you can also tweet to me. I'm on Twitter at Comic Will Carey. So I'm just really excited to get into this. So let's go to my chat with the lead singer of Bowling for Soup, Jaret Reddick. All right, and I think and we're doing the thing. Thanks for doing this, Jaret. I really appreciate it.
No worries, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. This is really exciting for me, because there's the first question I've always wanted to ask you since I got that Ozzfest DVD way back in the day is, how does Bowling for Soup play Ozzfest and not get torn limb from limb by raging Black Sabbath fans? I've always wondered this.
Man, it was a stroke of luck, or just it's crazy. Actually, the story is so essentially we were doing the Download Festival over in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
and we were booked. And after the fact, Ozzfest decides to make whatever day we did. I believe it was the Saturday. They decide to make that their day. So we had to go through this process of getting approved and everything by Sharon and by Ozzy and all of that. We had no idea that we were going to be on the DVD. We had no idea really that we were playing like the Ozzfest stage.
Uh-huh.
But how do we not get torn limb from limb? In the United Kingdom, Bowling for Soup are accepted in every single genre. So
Mhm.
we are that band. We have actually played between Machine Head and Anthrax and did just fine and had a great show and people loved it. So we did, and even Europe in general. I mean, we did a festival with where we played between Lamb of God and Kill Switch Engage, and people still dug us because we're out there having a good time. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, I mean, so really, most of it lends itself to just who we are as a band, and also we're just fun. So it's kind of hard not to have fun.
Oh, 100%. When you're sharing the stage with metal royalty,
Mm-hmm.
um, I can find it. I can find it impossible to not be just kind of giddy, like shadows fall, or,
Yeah,
or or what have you.
we were pretty excited. And what's funny is you find out that a lot of those really really heavy bands are actually pretty musical dudes, and they're also, I mean, in other words, they like all different kinds of music.
Right.
And the other thing that you find very quickly is they're all very very sweet individuals. They're um, very different from what it is that they're putting through the speakers. But we've been very fortunate in being able to meet and play with so many of those, as you said, metal royalty. Very lucky.
That's cool. So did you like get? So did you like have to meet with Ozzy or Sharon?
No, no, we it just kind of went across their desk and we were approved, and that was that. I mean, it's funny to be on the DVD is insane, and it's definitely, again, not something that we had any idea. They took the bands that were on that stage over the course of that day or whatever, and they picked the ones they thought should be on there, and we made it. So, after the fact, I think there were definitely some metal fans that were like, what the hell are Bowling for Soup doing on this kind of, and
Uh huh.
you kind of look at that and, I mean, we're just on it. That it is what it is.
Oh, totally. I can kind of see why metal guys would be cool for you because I agree with you. Every interview I've seen with like uh back in the day when Dimebag used to have a column in Guitar World and I would read that when I was trying to learn guitar. He seems like just the most down to earth. Like, oh yeah, just make sure you get name brand batteries so that your rig doesn't die in the middle of a gig, and
Yeah.
and the metal comparison I find because I was going through and listening to all of your stuff in preparation for this, and I came up with an analogy for who I think you guys are because I've seen you. I saw you, my now fiance, and I saw you at the Gramercy in New York a few years ago,
Yeah.
and maybe one of the most fun shows I've ever been to. As far as just like I can feel the joy you guys exude from the stage,
Mm-hmm.
and
Sure.
I would almost want to I would say for like the punk rock realm, I would say you're like the Poison of
Yeah.
that style of music because you guys are like nothing but a good time all the time, like a
It's
relentless pursuit of joy.
that's a very good comparison because Poison was a party band, that amongst their peers they either got taken seriously or they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that is definitely where we fall in. That's a very good analogy. I mean, in fact, Kevin Lyman, who created Warped Tour, often said, you guys need to be the ones that open and close the party. It's like that's and he did that, on the Warped Tour cruise that happened a few years ago. So, um, but yeah, that's a very fair comparison. Um, the one thing that I would say, uh, is that, the great thing about our band, though, unlike Poison, is that we all love each other internally. So, but yeah, man, I love being in Bowling for Soup because I think we can fit in any room. I mean, I really think there's very few places you could put us and we wouldn't win over the crowd.
Oh, I agree completely because uh, you just have that undeniable. We're gonna make you guys have fun. You can stand there
Yeah.
and with your arms folded. Like I would even imagine, 'cause living in New York, I go to concerts in Brooklyn on occasion, and I don't know if you guys have played Brooklyn specifically or not, but every show I go to, I just see everyone's just like got their arms crossed, and
Oh, right.
occasionally you'll get like a head bop, like even like when I saw the Get Up Kids, everybody just waited to the last song for the mosh pit to start. But I think that's just because everyone's 35 now.
Well, that's very LA. So I mean that makes sense because a lot of the population from the city are moving out to Brooklyn or whatever. So you do have kind of like the cooler people that their car is way too expensive kind of thing. They don't even need a car in New York, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I get it. I that's that, but to us, it doesn't really bother. Yeah, as you said, you don't really. I don't really ever expect mosh pits for us anyway. But when they break out, it's always hilarious. It's always during Phineas and Ferb or Stacy's mom, which isn't even our song. You
Right,
know?
right.
And so that to me is always fun. I mean, we'll just literally be laughing, like the crowd is completely fine and having a great time, and then people just start throwing each other into the air when we play Phineas and Ferb. It's crazy.
I love stuff like that. Again, the continuous pursuit of joy that comes from the stage is contagious. I'm curious. Growing up you're born and raised in Texas, yes?
Yes.
Um, so specifically, what part of Texas?
North Texas, so deep in the heart of Texas. We're originally from Wichita Falls,
Mm-hmm.
and then when we started the band, we moved down to Denton. So we're essentially Dallas.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of my understanding of the Dallas area is that there's the city Dallas, and then when people talk about Dallas Fort Worth, it kind of encompasses this greater vibe. Now, is Dallas when people think out when like me and my like Brooklyn born and raised like left coast elitist fiance think of Texas, is that what Dallas is like as far as the vibe there?
What do you mean? Like we ride horses and wear spurs and stuff?
Yeah, cowboy hats and like and the Dallas Cowboys are religion.
The Dallas Cowboys thing is pretty big here. The cowboy hats, boots is more Fort Worth or out into the areas where they actually have ranches and stuff. You don't really walk around Dallas proper and see a lot of that, but you would in Fort Worth, like I said, where the stockyards are and things like that. And then obviously we have a lot of farming around here. So you do see that. Not probably more though. More of that is more West Texas, which is 14 hours from me. It's
Yeah.
14 hours from Dallas to El Paso. I mean, it's a big state. So where I live, again, right in the heart of Texas, to
Hmm.
drive to LA is 29 hours, and we're halfway there when we get to El Paso, Texas.
Damn. And and I'm curious what the music scene is like in Dallas, because when I think of like the Texas music scene, I guess I just mainly I think Pantera and maybe a couple of other heavy bands. But is there like a punk rock scene or a DIY scene in the Dallas area when Bowling for Soup were coming up?
When we were coming up, not as much. I mean, yeah. I mean, there was a scene. We had a bunch of bands come out late '90s that did really well. A bunch of bands got deals kind of at the same time. Tripping Daisy, the Toadies, the Nixons, quite a few bands, and then some bands that had some moderate success as well. Um, you know, as far as like a punk scene, not so much. It was really just more of just like a band scene. We had nice clubs and places to play, and people went to shows. Denton, on the other hand, has always had its own scene. We just kind of were a little bit too late to be a part of it. We kind of had already branched out, and but there's a ton of indie bands that come from Denton, and so yeah, so I mean, I guess the short answer to your question is yes, there's a scene, but not quite in the vein of like a Portland or like a Seattle where um, you have magazines and things like that jump on board and try to help and promote and things like that. We don't have that. In fact, we have the opposite. our weekly rag here is called the Observer, and they just
Mm-hmm.
take a dump on everything. And it's a bummer because they really do. I mean, they're just it's there's very little support.
That's unfortunate. I imagine you'd think if, especially if anybody like gets out and has any kind of national name, that would want to be celebrated. I guess I was just I was curious because I feel like when I think of Bowling for Soup, I definitely know how you guys sound like, and I put you in next to other bands in my brain. But I feel like you guys were always kind of doing your own thing, and I don't know if that's maybe the Texas thing, because I feel like Texas is always like doing their own thing. But I feel like you guys were always kind of like on an island as far as like the scene is concerned.
100%. You're extremely. That is very. Um, yes, that's quite. Uh, yes, we didn't sound like it. I mean, we started in '94, and you got to think like bands that sounded like us lived in California, and so as we were coming up in Dallas, 96, 97, 98, really, really pounding pavement, trying to just fit in. Nobody sounded like us, and I mean, there
Mm-hmm.
wasn't even there was like a punk scene, but even they really wouldn't let us in because they all were the kind of bands that like they didn't want to be popular, and
Sure.
we didn't quite have the right attitude because we were having way too much fun and we were silly. So honestly, we got our break in these clubs by playing with rap rock bands, these bands that sort of came off the whole Limp Bizkit thing
Uh huh.
because they thought we were funny. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and we could sing. And so, honestly, a lot of those bands that were doing really, really well here in Dallas just started letting us open up for them. And what really, really broke us here in Dallas was service industry people loved us. So if we played at your bar, the bartender, the door guy, everybody would be like, "Oh my God, you guys got to see this." And so it was really funny because we would play a place down in Dallas, down in Deep Ellum, and when our show would come, it was like every other club they had a shift change because it would just fill up with all these other bartenders and door guys. They'd watch our show, then they'd go back to their positions. So we were just really, really lucky to be embraced by the actual population of the area.
Sure.
The people that were working down there, the people that were actually running the businesses and stuff. And so, yeah, man, we managed to catch on a little bit.
That's killer, man. That's always good when like the people who work at the venues think you're cool. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
about like one of my I'm a when I think of like comedians that do really well in like doing comedy clubs like Burt Kreischer or Dave Attell, those guys always they're always super great to the staff, and and people fucking party at those shows. My word. So which
Yeah.
again, thinking like, given that your whole ethos, I think is a good time. Granted, I pick up like some relationship issues in some of your lyrics, but you've never you don't strike me as someone who like wallows. You don't like who lets things like get to them, and I kind of
No, I
like that.
don't. I am a very positive person. I have insane anxiety and depression, which I just inherited. I just got over the course of the last 10 years. But still, I am very positive. It's very easy for me to look on the bright side of things, to find positivity in things, to forgive. I forgive very, very easily. And back to your point of staff, I've actually fired people in my organization because they just didn't get it. My thing is always like, when I leave a venue, I want them, if they don't think we were the nicest, best bunch of people that have ever come in here, then you guys didn't do your job, because the band is doing our shit. You guys are out there
Mm-hmm.
setting stuff up or doing your shit, whatever. Like, even if there's an issue, you can still be nice about it. And so people that work for me and my band, and we we breathe that. We want people to feel like we want to be there and feel like that we're in it, we're a team, and we're happy, and leave with them thinking, man, I can't wait till they come back.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you started and when you started playing guitar, how long have you been using the Music Man guitars? Because those are like the two guitars I identify with you most. That Texas one.
Yeah. So 2000 and think about this for a second. So when we did Let's Do It for Johnny, which was 2000, I was still playing a Fender Strat, and so that one is in the Bitch
Mm-hmm.
Song video. Then that guitar got stolen at
Oh shit.
while the van was at a pawn shop in Denton, and our guitar tech at the time, he felt guilty about it, but he didn't lock the door, and so it was stolen. And it's funny because whoever has that probably has no idea what they have. It's that was my first like love of a guitar.
Yeah.
Um, and then so yeah, so I guess Music Man then kicked in 2002 or so because that I'm playing that and Girl All the Bad Guys Want stuff, and
Uh huh.
it kind of just stems from they were already Music Man was being great to us with strings and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we went on a tour of the factory and just had a great time. Met all the guys there at Ernie Ball, and they were like, hey, if you ever want to try one, just let us know. Well, so here's a great story about the Texas guitar, and this kind of blows some people's minds, but if you already know, then just act surprised.
Oh,
Um,
I don't. I don't. I love
okay, so I
stuff.
got my first guitar from them, and it was like wood grain, and I was like, man, this is cool. I'd love to play it, but I'm in a punk band. I can't play a wood grain guitar. Like I just don't feel like it just needs to have some sort of pizzazz to it.
Uh huh.
And so they said, well, you can do anything you want with it. Just we'd rather you not cover up the brand name. And so the Texas guitar, those are stickers that I put on there 18 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so a lot of people think it's a paint job because they've worn that way and stuff like that, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Those are 100. When you get up close, it's like seeing a Star Wars gun at Planet Hollywood. You're like, oh, that doesn't look as cool as it should, as it did in the movie. And that's kind of way the guitar is. It's itself. I mean, it still looks cool up close, but you can kind of tell.
Uh huh. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I had always thought it was like this like custom job that someone did and like and really like put a lot of time and like lost time with their family into. Oh, that's
Yeah.
but 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 guitar covered with stickers. That's a very punk rock thing. You got to have pizzazz, but not like too much pizzazz because then you're like selling out or whatever.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you got to be careful with what stickers. You got to take your "mean people suck" sticker and take the "mean" out and just put "people suck" sticker. Then that's punk rock. See.
Exactly. And then you need to find a sticker that is big enough font, but it's small enough that you can fit it between the pickups so that when you like pull it up, do like a metal thing, the crowd
Yeah.
can read it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good one. Or like you could go like put the sticker on the back of the guitar, or you do like the guitar flip up thing, and it just says "There's my penis" or something, and it points downward. But
Uh
like if you were reading it from the side, it would be right side up. It would be pointing up to your face.
huh. That's a good one. That I might have to try that in my band now. I've got to get a
Yeah.
guitar that I feel comfortable enough playing live. Because I'm in this like balancing act of like I want something that's not like $150 like Ibanez, but also not so nice that I get kicked at a show, that I'm
Yeah.
gonna feel really sad.
Yeah, it's one of those. Gear is hard. You've got to not fall in love with it, and I've made that mistake a few times. And the acoustic guitar that I wrote all the hits on, like all of the big ones,
Hmm.
got got stolen while we were on stage in Boston one time out of our bus, and I had allowed myself to love that guitar, and so I was just like, "Fucking never again." So, like, I love the Texas guitar, and other than that, I mean, whatever. Everything's replaceable.
Exactly. So Bowling for Soup are playing around in the Fort Worth, Dallas area. So you're making some noise locally, and then Your first record deal was with Jive?
Yeah, our only record deal was with Jive. We signed with them in late '99, and we did one, two, three, four, five, 6 albums with them over the course of 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we got. I mean, it was kind of an experiment for them. They had never signed a rock band, and at the time, they were still an independent label owned by one guy. And but they were raking in the money. I mean, they had Britney Spears, R. Kelly, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were small fish, big pond, and that's pretty much the way that we were treated all 9 years.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I don't look back on it with like a bunch of. I'm not jaded. I'm not like. I don't look back on our time on Jive as being bad. There's a few decisions that got made that I wish had been different, because I think our career probably would have gotten even bigger. But at the same time, I kind of can't dwell on that, because I'm super happy where I am right now. I like,
Yeah.
my house and my neighbors, and my kids are happy, and I live close to my band, and we still love each other. And, so it's one of those things when people ask you, what would you change if you could change anything? Well, you have to sit there and take stock of, well, fuck, am I happy right now? Because we all learned from Back to the Future. You make one fucking false move, and then you're making out with your mom.
Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, that's a pretty excellent way of thinking about it. Because I always read like these horror stories about labels, and I don't know if you've seen the movie Yesterday, that Beatles movie.
No, I have not, and I intentionally haven't seen it. Hold on, just one second. You can
Oh,
edit this.
oh yeah, yeah.
I'm just texting my
I can
wife
edit
real
this.
quick. Just one second.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, sorry about that.
Oh,
Uh,
no worries at all.
what was the last thing you asked me?
Um, so I hear the movie. You haven't seen the movie Yesterday. The reason I bring it up, it's a pretty I think it's a pretty sweet movie. But there's like a scene where like he's meeting with a bunch of Los Angeles record label people
Yeah,
that just made me feel so gross.
yeah.
As far as like discussing the album art and the album title, and I'm not going to spoil it, but it makes you like, what? It plays in with the whole theme of the movie. But I didn't know if dealing with the label that did like the teen pop explosion of the early 2000s, if they were like trying to make you look a certain way or write a
Not
certain kind of
not
song.
not particularly look a certain way, but definitely, they were very, very used to having a lot of chefs in the kitchen. So they would, you know, a lot of people needed to be involved to make something happen, and a lot of times it really wasn't necessary. Like for me, um, artwork is something I don't necessarily do myself, but I know what I want, and
Sure.
so I just tell people how to get there. Well, now all of a sudden you have another opinion in there. Sometimes that other opinion is great, and sometimes it's not. And so, gosh, I guess it was "Sorry for Partying," I think, which was our last record with them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I scrapped the artwork like 5 times, because I was just like, this is not what I want. It's not good. Um, but and that wasn't me being just like an artist that's a dick. It was just more of like, I don't understand why I can't just tell you what I want it to look like, and look like that. But yeah, there's gross stuff with labels. I mean, there's stuff to where it's like fucking disgusting. It's like when Drunk Enough to Dance, Girl the Bad Guys Want had been a pretty nice hit. We had sold about 400,000 copies of that record right in the middle of Napster and fucking LimeWire and shit. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that was great at the time. The label didn't see it that way, because you had NSYNC coming out and selling 11 million records in one day, and yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ, what are you going to do?
Sure.
And so president of the label actually calls me because I'm being stubborn. They want to re-release the album. And to me, I'm like, well, shit, what are you going to do? You want with more songs on it. This is before
Mm-hmm.
digital was really a thing. And so they were like, we want to re-release it. push some more sales. So that's when Punk Rock 101 got added to Drunk Enough to Dance and a couple of other songs.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that whole experience was so fucking gross because it was like, we're re-releasing this record that we already released because we want people to buy it again just to get these one songs. And then they pretty much, the only time I ever let them tell me to do something and I was just like, okay, fuck it, I'll do it. They were like, we really want you to cover the song Iran because there's this video game that's getting really big right now. And
Backyard Wrestling.
no, it wasn't Backyard Wrestling. It was the first one. You know, you get hookers and stuff. You
GTA.
Grand Theft Auto. Yeah.
Yep.
Grand Theft Auto is huge right now. No, Backyard Wrestling had Punk Rock 101 in it actually.
Yes, it did. I remember because that's when I first heard it. I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
I haven't heard this song before, but I really like it.
Yeah, it was in NHL 2004 too. Like, we had a fucking good run. But yeah, the music that we created because of this arrangement was great. It was just I just didn't really understand why we don't move on to something else and put this stuff on to something else, you know. And I felt like I was taking the piss, so to speak, out of my fans and my supporters, and quite frankly, I think they felt that way too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we ended up doing that, and that was the last time I ever was told to do anything. Fucking disgusting. Otherwise, I was just ready to be like, oh, that's fine. We just don't need anymore.
Yeah, and do you like that Flock of Seagulls song? Because I enjoyed that cover. That's one of my favorite like '80s artifact songs.
I like it. I don't love it, but it was a bad experience. I didn't like the experience of it.
Yeah, because of the
circumstances. Is they brought in a producer, and I had never. I still co-produce every one of our albums and always have, but they brought in a producer to do this song, and they paid him some money, and I ended up doing all of the work. And I mean, this dude just sat around drinking hot chocolate all day, and like, again, really bad taste in my mouth for what producers are supposed to do, you know. And when, like, as a producer myself, when I'm like, guys, I can't add anything to this. This is not something you need me for. You need a good engineer. There's no reason for me to take your money, kind of thing, you know. And that's ethics, man. You know, like,
totally.
This dude took that fucking money from Jive Records and came and sat in the room with us, and I did all of the work as far as like arranging the tune and like getting all the tune together and all that shit. So we hate it as a band because of the experience and all of that, but I totally get it. It sounds cool, and you know, fans like it. So, you know, that's about all I can say about that.
No, I totally hear you. I'm simpatico with what you're putting out there. My greatest arguments in any band I've ever been in has always come down to cover songs. It's weird how that always becomes the thing, because any other kind of original song anyone's thrown me out, I'm like, great, let's do it. But the amount of times I've been like, hey, what if we covered like the Ramones or Blink, and I've been met with a chorus of no,
right,
is brutal. So you similar on that similar subject, and this is kind of getting into some of the other things I want to mapping out the timeline here. You say you co-produce all of your stuff. Is the role of the producer, at least the way you see it, is the role of the producer to help craft the song, or change the song, or to just take the song and make it as good as it can and make it sound as good as it can?
Short answer, the last thing you said, but sometimes it takes those other things. A great producer doesn't change things just for the sake of changing them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily need to have your name on every little thing you do to where you can point to it and go, hey, I conceptually did that to that song. That's where you get into fucking producers that start asking for songwriting, things like that. And I do think that some producers should ask for songwriting, and there are times when I've gotten to that point. But, you know, a good producer can hear a song and go, man, that bridge just isn't working. I think you should write another bridge, and can be there to help sculpt that other bridge. Or you don't need, you know, the first time we ever worked with an outside producer we worked with Butch Walker, and to have that be the first guy that we work with, at that time we were 9 years in or so, 8 years in
Hmm.
to be in a band, and we had recorded 5 albums up until that point. But to have a guy come in and be producer, but just make super subtle changes, like to where it literally made the impact, like the song impact so much. Like, I don't know how familiar you are with our band, but at the time we were working on this song Emily that we have on Drunk Enough to Dance, and that ended up becoming a single. But all he did was on that song was he took the intro away and he goes, "You just started on guitar, and then the band comes in on the second line on the upbeat, bah!" And we did that, and literally it was like all of us got chills, and we were like, "Ah, shit!" So, in a nutshell, that's what a producer does. A producer isn't an engineer, and an engineer isn't a producer. A producer isn't necessarily a songwriter, but he's not necessarily a songwriter. So he just basically takes your songs and makes them as good as they can possibly be, as you said, but
Hmm.
with a few little asterisks there, in that, like, hey, there's a point where if I come up with this amount of shit, I probably deserve some songwriting on this as well, or sometimes you don't do that. I mean, I've worked with bands where I've completely rewritten the song, and I'm like, man, I don't. There's no reason to go through all of this insanity of trying to get me songwriting on that. Like, just hire me again, kind of thing.
Exactly. No, that makes sense. It's kind of like when somebody gives me like I have a joke and someone gives me like a tag that makes the joke like pop that much funnier. I used to have a joke where I said I bought 12 condoms this time last year. I have 11 now. And then Mickey Coachella, who used to be the morning drive guy on 98 Rock in Baltimore, said say 13, and that just made the joke so much better. I still feel like, but to your point, it still feels like mine, but he just gave that little asterisk to make it that much
Yeah,
that
he's
much better.
punching it up. Yeah,
Yeah.
you that's what a great thing that a producer can do is punch up lyrics. Like, and I do that even with, like, you know I don't really produce a lot because I produce my own band. I produce Not Your Girlfriends, who I also manage. But when I do produce somebody, a lot of times it's a favor and it's a kid, or it's a young guy, or a musician who really hasn't done much. But even then, like, I feel like you need to make every line in the song count. You got to punch it up, because there's nothing worse than hearing like a throwaway line. Like, even in really big songs, like,
Yeah.
for example, that song "It's 5 O'clock Somewhere" by
Alan Jackson and Jimmy Buffett.
Jimmy Buffett. When he goes, it's only 12:30, but I don't care. Like, when he says the "I don't care" part, I'm just like, oh man, you could have fucking said something better than "I don't care." Like, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's such a
Yeah.
bummer, because it's like that song is so smart, and then it's just like for some reason I latch onto that "I don't care" every time, just going, what a fucking throwaway line. Like, just because it rhymes with somewhere, like, you could have nailed that and like made it one too, where it like changes each time or something. But
Hmm.
so I try to preach that, man, just don't literally go through there and be like, is there something, can I make this better, can I make this better, if this is cheesy, is it cheesy on purpose to where it's like, oh, haha, or you're trying to be silly or cute? If not, then hey, do we need to make this and that make this better? Is this too broad? Are we trying to be broad? If we're being broad in the verses, should we be more specific in the chorus? Things like that. Punching up lyrics is I think a very good role for a good producer.
To- yeah, that makes total sense. That's something I've been trying to work on as well. I've been trying to write, and to your point about Emily, that's one of my favorite Bowling for Soup songs. And I remember the first time I got drunk enough to dance, just really because I was listening to it all the way through, because I knew "Girl, All the Bad Guys" once, so I was like, okay, that's track 3. What happens before that? And back then, my guess was, okay, can the album grab me before it gets to the song I've heard? And drunk enough to dance, I was just like, hell yeah, I'm all about this. And Emily
Yeah,
especially, because I just love chunky palm muted power chords, and Emily, like, to start like write like that. And I think I was having some relationship issues at the time, so I was definitely like yeah, get drunk, have sex with other friends. I was like
Yeah.
all about that.
Yeah.
So that's
You know
something
what's
I've been
funny about
trying to do.
about you saying that is that there used to be such a science, and sometimes I sort of still operate under this, but we haven't done an album in a while, and I I'm not sure I really want to again because I just feel like we live in a singles world now. But I
Mm-hmm.
do think for the converted fans, the freaking 800,000 fans on our Facebook that like I just hear all the time, when's there going to be a new album? When's there going to be a new album? And then I'm just like, fuck, I don't really know if I want to put all that work into it. And then we do it. And then like I share a video from it 11 months after it comes out and somebody's like, oh shit, new stuff. And you're like, like, I just threw all of that out there at the same time. But to your, what the reason why I started saying this, there used to just be such a science to song order because
Mm-hmm.
you're exactly right. Like, can this keep my attention until the single? Because most people are gonna listen in listening booths back in the day, or like even when iTunes first came out, it's like they'll only listen to the first three songs. So you got to have your hit at three. Can't have a ballad in the first four.
Mm-hmm.
So your opener has to be this song, this song. And in fact, fuck, another argument I lost. Thank you very much for bringing this up. Uh, I wrote a song called "The Last Rock Show" for that particular record, and it was supposed to be the first song on the album. Like,
Uh-huh.
it's literally the reason I wrote that song.
Uh-huh.
Oh shit! And recorded everything, and I got talked out of making that first because of two reasons. Because I called it Rock Show, and Blink 182 had the song Rock Show. They were like, well, you don't want to just be like pigeonholed into another one of them. And also, it's too short, and it's not, and I'm just like, I just wanted to make an album to make an album.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I don't think that they were wrong in that I ended up putting I Don't Want to Rock on there first, and it opens with and it's
Yeah.
really, like you said, Paul Muta, really sucks to give your heart to a girl. That's the first line on that fucking whole album. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, that you want to know her like she knows the whole world, like she knows everything, right?
Uh-huh.
And it like so set that record up that I'm not still pissed about it, but it sort of made The Last Rock Show kind of a silly song to even include on the record, but I said fuck it and did it anyway.
Sure. That that makes me think of that I, I love these kinds of debates. It makes me think of that My Chemical Romance DVD when their producers like you should don't end the song now, have the chorus come back, and they're like, oh, we don't want to add the other chorus, and then they did, and they're like, oh, okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I, I I know "Don't Bore Us" get to the chorus is cliched songwriting advice, but that is something I've been thinking about more and more. And also because I'm trying to get less scared about singing. And I used to have really long intros because it's like, I don't want to sing just yet. And
Yeah, the Don't Bore Us Get to the Chorus is 100% should be rule of thumb, but it shouldn't be rule of thumb means, most of the time this is when it's good. Um, you have songs like All American Rejects, Swing Swing, where the first 30 seconds of that song is instrumental.
mm-hmm,
And they just keep going with the thing. Green Day used to do that shit all the time.
yeah,
So there's exceptions to the rule, but at the same time, and also there's, one of my favorite songwriter of this age is Frank Turner, and he will sometimes put the chorus in a really wacky spot.
uh-huh,
Um, but when you're writing simple rock songs, it's a pretty good idea to get in there between 30 and 45 seconds. You kind of need to let people know what's going on.
totally. You mentioned that you read. I'm reading his book about songwriting right now.
Oh, nice, nice.
I had such a great time talking with him. I love his music. He's one of two bands I've been able to successfully turn my fiance onto. The other one was Motion City Soundtrack.
Oh, good, nice.
That dude is great. And when you were making Drunk Enough to Dance, did you think you were going to get nominated for a Grammy?
No, but I didn't even think I was going to still be in a band, 10 years after that. So, you just, you don't really, none of that shit is ever in your head. You just kind of just trying to make it day by day. I was having my first kid that year. I'd just gotten
Uh-huh.
married a few years before. Like there was, it just, you're just trying to survive. But,
Yeah, you're just kind of I've froze a little bit here. I'm going to keep talking. Okay. And it's back. Yeah, you're just kind of doing the thing and then you're just kind of like, "Oh, nice." Cuz I think like talking about when that album came out, yeah, it was in this kind of place between like when streaming was starting to happen. And then I don't know if the Grammy helped you get better distribution, but that's when I started cuz I grew up in a place where Target was the record store, and
yeah,
that was when I was like, that was when I finally saw Drunk Enough to Dance, because I think I saw it mentioned on MTV or something like that
yeah.
back in the day, kids. When that's how you found out about bands was on
Well,
MTV.
it wasn't necessarily distribution. It was that at the same time that the Grammy happened, we had crossed over from rock radio to pop radio,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a hit. So everything just sort of happened all at the same time. So that's the reason when we got into Walmart and Target, it was a pretty big deal.
Oh yeah, I remember. I worked at Target in when I was going to college in Baltimore for a number of years, and I remember like when I could buy an all time low album at Target, that was like
Yeah,
a huge deal because it's like, oh my gosh, it's like it's real, it's in a store.
right.
Like that kind of stuff is super exciting. I also wanted to I wanted to ask because I went to as I just said, I went to college in Baltimore, so and SR-71 were like are like a like a huge deal in Baltimore, and I still love Now You See Inside,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm curious how did you meet up with Mitch Allen and end up doing and hearing 1985 for the first time? Because that album I don't think came out in the U.S. until like 8 years after they made it.
That's right. Yeah. So, well, Mitch and I had been friends for quite some time because we played with SR-71 all the time back in the day with radio shows and things like that. So we were already buddies and had, hung out a few times. But that was at the time when they were pretty much just down to just Mitch and John in the band, and they had released that album over in Japan. And it's before digital music was really a thing. So they really they had no hopes of releasing it here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So he was shopping it. He was actually trying to find either a label or somebody to cut the song or something. And he sent it to Butch Walker's manager, who is a friend, and Butch Walker's manager heard it, and not my man. And it's just completely out of just the realm of this is none of this has even gotten to me yet.
Uh-huh.
And his manager just goes, "That doesn't even sound like you guys. That sounds like a Bowling for Soup song, you know."
Uh-huh.
And he was just like, "They're in the studio right now cutting a record. You should just have them do it. Like they just had a huge hit."
Uh-huh.
And so Mitch called me and he sent me the song and I liked it. I can't hear a hit, so I didn't really know. Um, I definitely didn't quite like it lyrically. Theirs is pretty different as far as like it's pretty. I mean
It's a little
they're
edgier.
yeah they're pretty blunt. And so I just said, man, I'm down. Can I make it more of a Bowling for Soup song? Can I rewrite some of the verses? Can I work on this bridge a little bit? I want to redo the intro, things like that. And he was like, yeah, man, go for it. And so a hit, it happened, and he's very gracious. Every time I'm around him, he's like, you're the reason that I have this career now as a songwriter and all this and blah blah blah. And so that's nice. I mean, the weirdest thing about it is that song was a hit for so long, and as you said, 8 years later, it got released digitally over here by them. So then people were just like, "Oh my God, you guys ripped off Sum 41 or sorry, SR-71," and I'm like, "That is not at all what happened." And then you get like sort of defensive about it because you're like, "Well, it's not a cover because I contributed to the writing of it, but I don't feel like I need to explain that to everybody. And
Sure.
also, like, if you get to where you're almost defensive about it, like, do you guys not know that most of the fucking music industry doesn't write their own shit anyway? Like, what is happening? And
Yeah.
you sort of find yourself getting defensive about it for no fucking reason. And so the point is that, I'm super happy about it. I never hid behind. I mean, I've been telling that story of writing that song since day one, or getting that song and how it all went down since the fucking beginning of it. So, but yeah, that's how it all went down. And there is not one negative thing about it in my life. I'm super proud of that song, and I'm super proud of the successes. In fact, no shit, I'm not joking. Literally between my last interview and this one, I just ordered a double platinum plaques for the band for 1985.
Oh, that's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Mitch and John will get theirs when the band goes back to work and I can afford
Awesome. Yeah, exactly. Because the whole world's kind of on pause right now. I will say this because I ended up getting that album at a show because I had just moved out of my small town, so I was like, I can walk to a concert venue, and so I love both Bowling for Soup's version and their version. Theirs is more like what I think really makes your version you specifically, because I knew that whole story, so people are just not paying attention, or they're creating the reality that they want. What really I think makes your version is not only the catchiness and the cleverness of the lyrics, but those little like octave things at the beginning with the woo-hoo-hoos, that
it.
na 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 na.
Sure.
That I think really is the like the sprinkles on the Bowling for Soup version of that song. But
Yeah,
that's
and,
awesome. It's double
and
platinum, man.
our lyrics are, the song did really well on Radio Disney, and we only had to change like one. All we had to do was change Prozac to Workout. Like
Mm-hmm.
even Thought You Get a Hand on a Member of Duran Duran. I meant that to be dirty, but it's hidden in there. Like
Uh-huh.
it's and so again, I think ours was just more. Our version is just, it's PG-13 rather than the rubber broke.
Yeah, absolutely. That's that.
But I mean, I'm glad that their version is out now because I think those songs that are on that album are great.
Yeah, Mosquito is a great song on that record. All American. He's awesome. If you ever talk to him, feel free to give him my email because I would love to chat with Mitch Allen.
Yeah, for sure. I can just make that intro for sure.
Oh, thanks, man. That's really nice of you.
No worries.
Um, I wanted to ask a little bit about international shows because I've done comedy internationally. I know you've done a bunch of shows for the troops, but if my understanding is correct, and this is mostly from following Pat Penning's career, because I saw them in like a community center and church basements in the Maryland, Virginia area. I love them. It sounds like, and what you were saying earlier, the UK loves you guys. So I'm curious how that came about.
I mean, it came about just basically we got seen by the right guy at the right show. It's one of those stories where it's like you should play every show like there are 100,000 people in the room because you never know who that one dude is in there.
Uh huh.
And that actually came true for us. We played a South by Southwest show. There was fucking nobody there. A few weeks later, we get a call and it's just like, hey, saw you guys at South by Southwest. You want to play Reading and Leeds Festival? And I'm like, I don't know. Let me look that up on, whatever AOL or whatever it was
Yeah.
at back in
Bing.
the day. It's like
AskJeeves.com.
do some dial up there. And anyway, that person was Steve Homer, who was the head of Live Nation in the UK at the time, and he had this vision of Bowling for Soup over there and just knew that it would work. And he was really, really correct. He's the head of AEG there now, but he brought us over there for that, and then we went over and did our own little tour. A band from over there had heard us on one of the radio stations. They were called Uncle Brian at the time, and they were like, hey, if you guys want to come over here and do a tour, we'll book everything. You can stay at our house. They still live with their parents. Can stay at the singer's house. We'll
Mm-hmm.
feed you guys everything. We just want to open up. And so we went over there and did that. And then the next time we were supporting, and the next time we were headlining, and we've been headlining since 2001 over there. Now we're playing bigger places than we ever have. So the UK audience just really gets us. I mean, they get us from just the being just normal dudes aspect to they get the comedy in between songs. They like the music, and like I said, I mean, it's been a true blessing. I mean, we do really well in the United States as also,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but as far as just our no brainer market, it's definitely the UK for sure.
That's so cool, man. I've been there once. I love I've spent a lot of time in Liverpool. I'm very lucky. Whenever my fiance has to travel a lot for work, so I get to come along and just have fun while she's working all day.
Nice.
But the vibe of yeah, that kind of makes that kind of makes that all kind of makes sense to me. And you've played Japan also, yeah?
Yeah, we do really well in Japan. Is also, I mean, it's been a while since we've been there. We do well in Australia. Been a while since we've been there. I mean, those are places that we need to get back to. We were talking about a Japan thing for the fall, and obviously that's not going to happen now. So
Yeah.
we'll have to see. But great markets for us all over the place, and some places that we really really love. Japan is one of those places where the whole band would go anytime. We love it there.
Yeah, Japan is like of the countries I've traveled to is probably my favorite. I love it there so much, and every like Tim from Alistair tells me like the crowds there are just so great and they're just so into what you're doing. That's really awesome, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, I also wanted to ask you, and I know I'll let you go soon. I don't know if you have anything else to do after this, but um, I'm getting. I was supposed to get married next month, but then the world happened. But I still might be able to do it online. Um, and then we pushed the ceremony back here. I'm curious from a personal standpoint because this is something I've had a problem with as well. How do you balance uh, being a productive musician with being a good spouse and a good father?
Um, well, common sense gets you long ways. Gets you a lot of. It goes a long way. I mean, if you feel like you haven't spent the right amount of time with the right people, you're probably right. And I will say, I have a failed marriage, and it's 100% my career's fault. Absolutely, hands
Mm-hmm.
down. That's it. But I got two great children out of it, and I we had a good run. Had technology been the way that it is now, it's so much easier to be in a band, to be a productive musician, to be able to go tour, and to stay in touch. You literally, I mean, I'm talking to my wife all day, texting. I'm talking to my kids, if they need something, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and but yeah, I mean, you know, it's not the easiest thing in the world because musicians and people in this, and no matter what, and not really just musicians, people in the music industry, entertainment, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I also am the voice of Chuck E. Cheese, and
Yes.
sometimes it's 4 o'clock. It's happened to me two times in the last couple of weeks. Sometimes it's 4 o'clock, and I get some. I'm kind of done for the day. I've done a couple of shows online, or I've done this, I've done that, and I get something, and they're like, "Hey, during this time, things are pretty much we need it right now." So, your spouse has to be understanding as well and be like, you know what, you got to do what you got to do. But I think as long as you just keep a clear head and put family first, and especially, it sounds like you and your fiance have a great relationship. My wife is my best friend. So my wife is like the first person in the history of people that like, and not just girls, but just like people in general, the where like she can come out on the road with the band, and I'm not sick of her in a couple of days, because
Sure.
she can do her own thing and let me do my shit, and like if I need to sleep all day, I just do, I mean, like, sometimes I stay up drinking until 7 o'clock in the morning. I need to fucking sleep until 4 in the afternoon so I can sing, like, I mean, that's just, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And she's awesome. She just goes to lunch and whatever. But I don't know, back to your question, I think also it's just there just should be an understanding between you and your significant other going in and be like, look, here's what I want to do. Here's what I want to accomplish, at the beginning of each week or each month or each year or all three, what is it what are your expectations of this week? What are your expectations? I do this to my wife all the time, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Especially right now where she's having to teach my kid and, my teenage boy is here as well. So I'm like locked in this. I've been locked in this room since 10 o'clock this morning,
Uh-huh.
6 hours. And, I have no idea what's going on out there. And so I feel like I need, even though, I am the breadwinner right now, I have to say, hey, what are your expectations of the day? Like, is there something that because I can take a break if I need to, I can move something if I need to,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can get those things done. So I just try to be really, really mindful. And even with my kids, like I've been working a lot, like I've been doing a lot of online shows. I've been doing a lot of press and things because people want content. I mean, you reached out to me because, you usually record at night, but I'm like, I can't do that because I'll be with my kids. You're like, well, fuck, I don't got anything else to do. So let's do it during the day. Right.
Yeah,
And
literally, I have literally so much time right now.
yeah, right. So there's all of these opportunities popping up. And so I tend to, I have to tell my kids, like, hey, you know what? I'll take Saturday and Sunday completely off. Let's go hang, whatever. But, common sense goes a long ways, man. It really does.
Thank that I will remember that. I'm feeling better. I was already feeling pretty good, but I'm feeling better now. This is kind of like the like older sage, like older man advice that I needed when I was a teenager.
Hey, I got a psychology degree, dude. Like I could, if you want to talk later about your dreams and shit, I'm in.
Oh man, that's really nice of you, man. I might take you up on I might take you up on that at some point. It's like uh, I'll try to keep it as like be like, hey Jared, does my band suck, and also do I suck too? One other thing I wanted to ask you, what do you want what do you want to do once the quarantine's over? Is there something you haven't created yet, or the band hasn't done that you want to do?
I've got big ideas, man. I'm gonna do a country album on my own. I wrote a bunch of country songs, and I was gonna try to go and join in and do the pitch thing and all that, and I just decided I don't like that world enough to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna say fuck it and just put it out on my own. And I think some people get into it, some people won't. But Bowling for Soup is my main focus. To get us back on the road. We have material coming out. In fact, we have a new single coming out on Friday. I don't know when this will come out, but uh, we so and we've got a bunch of covers in the chamber. We're working on our second greatest hits record, songs people actually like, volume 2.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a couple of duets cooking. I've got a song that I'm releasing that I wrote with Adam Schlesinger right before, or not right before 10 years ago. And now that
Mm-hmm.
he's passed away,
Oh yeah.
I'm giving all giving the song to Music Cares, and I went and finished it. So that's going to come out. So just, I'm just always doing something, man. You just never know.
That's awesome, and I'll probably have this out, maybe not this week, but probably next week.
That sounds
Is
great. So I'll just say that again. I'll just say we just released a cover of a Social Distortion song, and so that's out now. And now you can just pop that in anywhere.
Oh, sounds good, man. And one more thing, just because you mentioned country, I ask musicians uh, is there a country album that you think not a lot of people know about that I should download after we hang up this?
I think what you should do rather than an album is you should just go down a Willie Nelson rabbit hole,
Mm-hmm.
just so that you can go, oh fuck, he wrote that. Oh shit, he wrote that. Oh my god, he wrote that. Because it will freak you out how many songs that dude wrote that like Elvis did or Patsy Cline or the Eagles or Bob Dylan or like all of these other people, and Willie Nelson wrote the shit.
Oh, that's awesome. That's an excellent idea, and I'm gonna do that. Because I'm going down an Iron Maiden rabbit hole right now, also.
Ah,
So
that's great.
that'll be a nice alternate. That'll be a nice alternate for after I get through like their seventh or eighth 100 record. They have so many. Um, well, dude, this has been so great, Jared. I really appreciate you taking time to talk to me today, and this has been really great. And thanks for all of the great music, and then for all of the future advice I'm gonna ask for. I think we just have I feel like there's a podcast idea in here, like punk rock, like punk rock 10, like
Punk rock therapy.
punk rock therapy. Yeah,
Right.
that
Yeah.
I think there's an idea here, man.
You could be the straight guy, and I'll give the advice.
I like the sound of this.
Okay.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
I'm gonna say this. I'm not interested in that. So maybe we'll email.
Yeah, let's do that. I can't wait. That would be great, dude.
Awesome, dude, man. Hey, it's been great. Great questions. Great interview. Good luck to you and your fiance. And for real, man, hit me up anytime.
Awesome. Sounds great, man. I will talk to you soon, Jarrett.
Sounds good, buddy. Take care, bye.
You too. My brain is still trying to process what I think just happened, but I'm pretty sure the lead singer Bowling for Soup just said he would be interested in maybe doing a podcast with me, which, if I could go back in time and talk to my teenage self and just prepare him for this moment, I think he would have had such an easier run through his 20s. That I enjoyed that conversation so much. I hope that you guys got some music knowledge, got some life knowledge. That was really really enjoyable. So thank you, Jared, for your time and for your candor. It was really great to chat with you. I sincerely appreciate it, and I sincerely appreciate you guys and any Bowling for Soup fans who might be listening to my show for the first time. If you enjoyed this, I have, oh my gosh, like another 150 something episodes of this show that are there for you to enjoy. Thank you guys again for listening. If you enjoyed this and think you know a friend who might be into my podcast, we are available on Apple, Stitcher, and Spotify. You can also get a free month of Stitcher Premium when you sign up with the promo code AWESOME in all caps. That's another way to support the show. And thanks for being here. I also want to give a shout out to my supporter on Patreon at the awesome producer level, Mary Beth Mooney. Thank you so much for your support. If anyone is interested, you can check out patreon.com/awesomedisaster. I'm making playlists, food recommendation, writings, a lot of different stuff over there. And you could be a sponsor of the show if you wanted to. So thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you to Jared for your time. It was really, really great talking with you. And I hope everybody stays safe, stays healthy, wear a mask if you need to go out in public, and better days will be here soon. And I'm feeling pretty good right now as I'm heading into, when I record this, my 34th year on this planet. So thank you guys again, and I will see you next week between Awesome and Disaster. Stay safe, everybody.